Before I get into this, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has come over to the channel. Broke 200 subscribers a little bit ago. That was pretty cool for just being a guy that's pacing around in his house talking into a cheap microphone. I'm really flattered, and I'm happy to have you here. And especially to everybody who comments under these videos. Your feedback is invaluable. My man, like Spybot, I agree. Good guys all the way around. Silence is lead, and then of course our friend the Ayatollah, without whom none of you would probably be listening to this right now. So big shout out to him as well. Anyways, the deeper that I get into this thing and the more people that I meet on both sides of the Atlantic, every so often I run into somebody who, and this is every so often, but it kind of stuck in my craw, so I wanted to address it. I'll run into somebody who will give me a little bit of shit for kicking in so much with British nationalists. And I have no doubt that there are examples of that coming from the other side. And, you know, in a very basic way, it makes sense. Like, yeah, I'm not British. But that doesn't really matter when you look at the fight that we're in right now. And that sure as shit doesn't matter to our enemy. So there's two things to kind of counter that simplistic view that I wanted to talk about. One, probably the most obvious one. I should say these two things are related to each other. So, I mean, I really could lump them in together, but for the sake of keeping it all straight in my head, break them up into 2 points. So, first one, our enemy is identical, and they are waging almost an identical war on both of us, and they have been doing that for a while. I'd say maybe the biggest difference between our enemy's tactics and their focus between the U.S. and the United Kingdom is that after the Second World War, obviously the U.S. came out ahead as being the biggest military power in the world, so they wanted to gain control of that. So I think they shifted a lot of focus onto us in the subsequent years after that. But other than that, I mean, you look at like the media, you look at the entirety of the education system, law enforcement, that's pretty much the same, really, to varying degrees, but only very slightly varying. And where I said the second point ties in with that is that they wage this identical war on us because we are pretty much identical people, and most of our people have been so beaten over the head and deracinated that they don't recognize that, but our enemy sure as shit does. They're well aware that there are only the slightest degrees of separation between Americans and Brits and Canucks and Aussies and Scots, and on and on and on and on, including our brothers and sisters in the East. There's not, I mean, our Eastern European brothers and sisters may be arguably the farthest flung from us, but again, still pretty damn much the same people, and they're well aware of it, you know. I got to thinking about the first time that I sat down with our friend Ayatollah. I think he might have even mentioned this on the stream, but the day before that, we did like a sound check, and it was supposed to just be just that, a sound check. And it wound up turning into like an hour and a half conversation about a wide range of topics, which seldom actually related to the nationalism thing. It was really just like a couple of dudes just shooting the breeze. And that came so easy. It was like nothing at all. I mean, it might help that we're of a similar generation, maybe. But other than that, and you know, maybe I guess you could maybe say we broadly follow the same big customs, you know, Christmas and Christianity, or at least a Christian-based society. What was once a Christian society, you know, that'll have an effect on your ability to relate to somebody. But ultimately, it's genetic. It really is genetic. And they know that. The enemy is well aware of that. So they don't They don't see any distinction between us, so why in the hell should we? And then, of course, there's the even more grug-brained kind of take, which is, no, I say grug-brained, that sounds insulting. It shouldn't be, but we're just undermanned. The idea of that we're going to win this by holding up within our own borders and not reaching out to each other and trying to strategize with each other is absolutely stupid. Because let's say a breakthrough, some form of getting through. I mean, groyping is a perfect example of that. It's an easy, highly effective guerrilla tactic. I think we could probably say that it started with Fuentes and the America First crowd, but then that kind of died down once the whole Charlie Kirk college tour, culture war, or whatever the fuck he was calling it, when they clamped down on that. And then now that torch has been passed off and is being ran with weekly by our brothers and sisters across the pond. And that's an example of how effective it is for us to keep lines of communication open with each other and to be, what's the word? Be persistent with it? That's not quite the right word. I'm trying to think. Be within constant communication, near constant communication with each other. Because when one of us hits a breakthrough, being that our enemy and our problems are almost identical, it will just about certainly work for all of the rest of us. Canadians are in just the same position to groip as our Aussies, as our Americans, and I'm kind of stuck on groiping right now, but there are other things. This recent debacle with the stock market, another great one. I mean, these companies are publicly traded. We all have internet access. If you have a few $100, you have 5 other friends that have a few $100. Who knows? Who knows? You may just grow that thing and sink a massive institution like Melvin Capital to the ground. That sort of thing is impossible if we're focused in on ourselves just because, we established these borders for our people and oh, they've got funny accents or whatever stupid, some stupid, I don't know, distance that you might perceive between us. It's pretty much not there at all. But yeah, I don't have a question or anything like that. That was just kind of a rambling. I figured I wanted to say thank you for the 200 subs, but I thought I needed to actually say something else. So I just went with that little tidbit of a thought that I had while I was taking my shower this morning. Anyways, I'm going to roll out of here. Thank you again so much for coming over here, and I'll try and keep on pumping up the amount of content that I have on this page. But take it easy, and remember, you can build your filthy world without me.